Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Eric sent me a note. Steve, this story actually happened a couple weeks ago, but it's important because it's a change in the law in Colorado, and it does change something rather dramatically. And I find the legal topic here quite interesting. Colorado law now requires drivers to pay traffic camera citations. Wait. What changed? Oh, what changed is how they can notify you of it and the ramifications for if you don't pay it. Okay, so here we go. Maddie Rhodes wrote this for KDVR. Gone are the days of avoiding payment on traffic camera citations. Now, if you're caught speeding or running a red light by camera, you must legally pay the fine. It turns out in the old days, you only had to pay the fine if they served you with some kind of complaint within a certain time frame. And it apparently was not something they did very often, so that a lot of people would get the notice and ignore it to see if they ever got served. If they didn't get served, they wouldn't pay it, nothing would happen. So once everyone realizes that, this whole system falls apart. So a Senate bill titled Automated Vehicle Identification Systems passed last year, but it did not get a lot of attention despite the fact it contains a couple big changes. Originally, drivers could legally avoid paying red light camera citations in Colorado if you weren't served notice of the violation through an actual personal process server, or certified mail. Within 90 days, the ticket would be absolved. And by the way, many people would realize this. When someone shows up to get you to sign for certified mail, if you're not there, and it doesn't get signed for, it doesn't get delivered. At which point, you then realize, oh, I just don't ever answer the door for the mailman for 90 days. That's not the case anymore, though, according to attorneys who have studied this new law, which passed in June, says that when your citation is mailed first class, it's considered served. It doesn't matter if it was sent to an old address, doesn't matter if you didn't get it, doesn't matter if you say you didn't get it, doesn't matter if it gets addressed and sent to the wrong place. It's just if it was mailed first class, presumably to the address that's your registration is listed with. If it's mailed first class, you are presumed to have gotten it. As soon as they send it out, you're affirmed guilty, says one attorney. It doesn't matter if they have the right address or right anything. It's on you to make sure that all your information is up to date. Make sure all your licensing and information is up to date at all times, because if it's not, that isn't necessarily going to be an excuse for the fine. So now I would recommend you do that anyway. If you move, you should change where your registration lists you as living. And the reason you do that is so that in case the state ever wants to send you something like, I don't know, a license renewal form, you can do that by mail, right? Or online, but you get triggered and reminded to do that based on the fact that you registered. Likewise, the license plates, if they get mailed, wouldn't you like them mailed to the right place or the little tabs or whatever it is, right? Doesn't matter if you say you weren't the one driving. The owner of the vehicle has to prove they weren't the person driving if they want to defend the case. So again, if they record your car going through an intersection at a red light and they send a notice to you saying we think it was you because you are the registered person with the car. If you don't respond, you're on the hook. You can't come back later and go, well, I know I didn't respond, but it was somebody else driving the car. You lose your ability to fight this. This law came with many other changes as well, including the amount of time you have to pay the ticket. Now, residents have 30 days from when the ticket is mailed to respond to the citation. Those registered outside the state have 60 days. And the question, of course, is what will they do to people from out of state who don't pay? So if your mail is delayed or you didn't see it, your citation will increase rather than disappear. Now, I'll admit, the mail's gotten a little better. But during COVID, all bets were off. Mail went, I don't know, and I don't blame the mail service because the entire world was in turmoil there for a while. But during COVID, I conducted a couple experiments, I talked about this before, where I mailed letters to myself. I got a couple more I didn't get. And I had all kinds of stuff that people mailed to me I never got. Never. And I don't know if it's still out there, if it got thrown away, if it got returned to sender, I don't know. But stuff just disappeared. But it seems it's gotten a little better. But also the amount of mail we get is really dropping. Some days I get no mail. Other days I get a little bit of mail. But of course, my email inbox is stuffed. Fines are the same amount, which is between $40 and $75 depending on the infraction. However, if you don't respond on time, those prices then go up. In the worst case, if you don't pay your ticket, you'll be sent to a debt collector. So they will just say this thing is now a collectible debt, and they will send it to a debt collector. And of course, that means there's a chance that could hurt your credit. I'm not sure they're going to report that or not. While you are required to pay red light tickets and speeding tickets, they won't add points towards your license. And so that's one small consolation. Of course, the question is, if it wasn't you, or they got the photograph of the wrong car, and you got to go in and fight this, how easy are these to fight? At first, speeding tickets weren't valid unless they're observed by a human. So if an officer wasn't present when the camera tracked your speed, you legally didn't have to pay it. Now, speeding tickets don't need to be observed by a human if they're caught on camera. So they're now treating the cameras as, in essence, infallible. These changes are the result of the Automated Vehicle Identification Systems Bill, which got passed. The law mentions more portions will go into effect later this year. While it's not specific on what is going into effect, they say that paying tickets via cameras is already mandatory. So they believe that next year's changes will be the addition of permanent speed light cameras, which are now allowed to track your speed in multiple different places, including state highways. But I'm not too crazy about these things because I've never liked the idea of law enforcement being delegated to a machine. And I know there's people out there who are really like the tech people. They're really into the tech. And they go, hey, Steve, if the machine is set perfectly, it's probably more accurate than a human. In many respects, it might be, because a human can fall asleep, a human can get angry about something, a human can make a mistake. A machine is programmed, and as long as it's following the program, the machine doesn't malfunction, it's going to be doing exactly what it's programmed to do. But we've seen it where they program these things to be aggressive. And what that means, for instance, is on a red light camera. At what point will it trigger and say that you ran a red light? So if you stop for red light and then you make a right turn on red legally, will it say, hey, you ran the stop, you ran that red light? I've heard of that. And then also speed. Will it record you and fine you for doing 11 over, 15 over, 6 over? At what point do you set it? Because obviously the lower you make that, the more money you make. And I'm always also bothered when it looks like law enforcement is monetarily incentivized, i.e. someone makes more money by writing more tickets. And so someone's making more money with these machines just sitting out there because guess what? To have a police officer sitting there all day long with a radar gun costs money. Putting a machine there also costs money, but I have a feeling that it's less expensive. And also, that machine just sits there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, rain or shine, working. I mean, if we could only find workers who are that, durable. So I'm not crazy about this, but the big change here is the people in Colorado who up until now thought, well, if I get this thing mailed to me, I can ignore it until the official one comes. No, the official one is now the one that gets mailed to you first class. And if it gets mailed first class and you see it, you need to pay it or at least fight it. And if you don't get one, but they sent it to you, then you might have an issue trying to prove you never got it. And I've mentioned before, some court systems, some state court systems, have a presumption of mail delivery. And so in the Michigan court rules, it says that if somebody mails something to somebody, first class mail properly addressed, it's presumed that they got it. Now, you can fight that presumption, but it's presumed that they got it. So that's similar to this. I have a sneaky feeling that when they're cranking out thousands and thousands and thousands of these notices, that these aren't going to look like really good first-class mail. I suspect they're going to look like junk mail. But I hope they can do something to make it look a little bit less like junk mail. However, for the few people in the audience who are actually in Colorado, I got to tell you, I went and saw Big Head Todd the Monsters last night at St. Andrews Hall in Detroit. An amazing show. It was utterly amazing. And I was like 10 feet from the stage. So there you go. Eric, thanks for sending this. Maddie Rhodes wrote that for KDVR. Colorado law requires drivers to pay traffic camera citations, and the method for that has changed. So you got to be aware of that if you're in Colorado. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The only way to enjoy anything in this life is to earn it first.